So the mission statement at the marketplace is to bring joy to the Camano Island community through food, service, and drink. Hey, Islanders, and welcome to episode 91 of the Camano Voice. Today, we turn the tables, and I get interviewed again here on the Camano Voice. Hi, I'm Brandon Ericson, and you're listening to the Camano Voice podcast, where I interview folks around Camano Island and beyond. If you want to stay up to date on events, businesses, and even hear a little history of this area, subscribe to this podcast and share with your friends. Thanks for listening. Hey, Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice, where we release a new episode every Tuesday. On this episode, I get interviewed again by two former Camano Voice podcast guests, Lydia Crouch and Emily Harmon-Waterlow. So they're going to interview me today on the podcast. You'll get to hear a little bit of what we went through and what we did during COVID, what changes we made during that, kind of how things are, and kind of state of the union where we are now. And a little bit more about my history. So anyways, hope it's interesting and that I don't bore you. No, it should be good. All right. Without further ado, here's my conversation with myself and Lydia and Emily. Hey, Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice. And today, we've done this once before, but we're going to do it again. We're going to turn the tables and go over a little bit of have someone else, or actually two people in this case, interview me for the podcast. So welcome to the podcast, Emily and Lydia. They're both former podcast guests. So welcome.
We're happy to be here and happy to turn the tables. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So just to start off, Brandon, if you could give us a bit of an overview of your life, maybe since graduation from high school, and where you've been and what you've been doing and how you're back here on the island.
Okay, cool. So don't want to start back when I was a little tiny baby and all that?
I mean, I'm sure you were cute, but let's just skip ahead a little bit.
Okay. So, yeah, I started out, after high school, if you guys have heard, like, podcasts with my wife, we kind of went through some of this stuff, too. But so check out those podcasts for a deeper dive into this. But basically went to college at Wazoo. And after we lived there, first went to Everett Community College, then Wazoo, so transferred there, got a mechanical engineering degree, worked at a few different engineering companies, and then that kind of dragged me all over the place. Like I did a short 8-month stint in South Carolina, living over there with the family, came back and ended up leaving the engineering field and kind of was figuring out what to do next. And so I was talking with my dad about career choices and things like that. And then a new project was starting up, so decided to jump on board with that. And he said, let's see how this project goes together. And then if this goes well, then we'll continue on. And so that was a project that took me down to Guatemala for a few months. I was going down back and forth to Guatemala about a week out of every month. And so we were launching Frozen Explosion down there, which was one of my dad's companies that he owned at that time. And then after that project resolved, I jumped on to opening the ice cream shop in the marketplace. And that was my real first project for the marketplace that I started doing. And then from there just kind of kept growing. And so I kept doing more projects within the marketplace. And then, then eventually took over as the manager of the marketplace. And now I'm here.
So your dad is Jeff Ericson.
Yeah.
And as people who know or don't know Jeff, very gregarious, fun, but super entrepreneur, dreamer. What was his vision for starting Camano Commons? How did that?
Yeah. So that was actually, so he started that with, it was actually more of an offspring of what his main business was, which was Camano Island Coffee Roasters. And for those who don't know, my brother-in-law and sister, so TJ Fittis and Destiny Fittis, own Camano Island Coffee Roasters and purchased that from my dad. So that's actually completely a separate company, but really a sister company to us now. And then my wife and I purchased Camano Commons Marketplace. So with the Camano Commons, the entire area, though, he was going to be building a new coffee roasting facility. So he was roasting coffee out of a barn on our property on Tillicum Way
I
And-
remember that. I used to take my babies in strollers and smell the coffee.
Yeah.
I used to walk by your house. Yeah. Coffee with a view.
Yeah. So he started it in a little barn on our property, and then it, outgrew that space. And so he was like, well, we really need to get a, commercial building where we can actually really kick out production and stuff. So then, through talking with some local real estate brokers, Mike Nestor, who was also on the podcast, was a big part of that, in getting my dad to bite on that of buying this property. And so my dad was like, yeah, I think we can do it. I don't know if at that time or not, Mike told him that like 2 or 3 other people had tried to do something here and had been shut down. And so Mike was just like, well, let's throw another person into the ring. So anyways, was able to do that. But in that process, kind of figured out that to build a septic system for a single coffee roaster building, was just as much work as making a really big septic system so that he could put all these commercial buildings. So it started out as a single faceted, I'm just going to build a coffee roaster and that's going to be my building, to, well, if it's just as much work, let's just build a bunch of buildings, commercial buildings around it. I'll sell those off and I'll just work in my little coffee roaster. And so that's what his intentions were. And so that's what kind of happened with Camano Commons, is it was kind of a secondary thing of what the coffee roaster was doing. And, long story short, eventually all the buildings ended up coming back to him. And so then we started kind of planning more as a full, full vision for the commons instead of just
community complex kind of thing.
Yeah, instead of just the single faceted part. So,
and for those who don't know, the whole island is on septic, which means that it's well water and everything has to be processed here on the island. There's no city takeaway, so everybody has to be super careful and environmentally conscious about it. So it's not just a small thing when we talk about septic systems.
Yes.
Not romantic, but it's a really normal part of our life to talk about.
Right.
So, yeah. So trivia, how old were you when you started drinking coffee?
I was actually not really started drinking coffee until I was in college, probably at Wazoo, I would say. 1920-ish, because before then I would drink coffee here and there for little things. And I would drink coffee at like fairs. If I was working a fair or something like that, I would put a ton of sugar and cream and everything in it. And so anyways, I didn't really start drinking coffee until I was into college. And, a lot of late nights and a lot of early mornings and
necessity.
Yes. So they all kind of led to that. And then, started again with like really lots of sugars and creams and things like that. And then kept devolving into now it's just basically coffee and cream. So.
Oh, good for you. Yeah.
I'm not quite straight black yet on coffee.
In my opinion, you never have to go there. So you go where your happy spot is and just kind of stick with it.
Exactly. So, Brandon, now that you're here, as you say, the owner of the marketplace, what does that look like? Like, give us in a day of being the owner of the marketplace, what could or does happen in that 8, 10, 12 hours that you're there?
Yeah. So, I mean, just like in any other business owners out there, they kind of know this already. Like, when you own a business, you're everything from the top all the way to the bottom. And so anything that happens in between there, like you're jumping in and fixing or helping or whatever that looks like. So because of that, my day goes anywhere from like answering emails with different clients or different, I work with my other managers to see how the departments are doing. And then they let me know of any issues or any things that we need to work on or get fixed, or maybe new products they want to bring in. How the overall team is doing in their department. So we kind of go over all of those different things. A lot of emails back and forth. We don't really have a dedicated marketing team. So my wife does a lot of it. And then Emily does a lot of the scheduling of that stuff. And so I help out here and there on that stuff. And then planning new things, getting events going. I try and stay really connected with the community leaders, I would say, within the community. So I'm on the board of the Camano Chamber of Commerce. So I work closely with a lot of the chamber members there, and some of the local businesses. So Marla and Randy Hegel, I try and see what they're doing and keeping up with them. Sally Pray's got a big event coming up here. So I work with all of them to kind of make sure everything's working together. But like last week, we have a new penny squisher machine. Not new now, but we've had it for a while. I finally been trying to get it to work. But we have a penny squisher machine. So like those ones that you see in Seattle and stuff that have, the Space Needle and Mount Rainier on them. So we designed 4 Camano themed ones that we have. But ever since getting the machine, I've been having issues getting it to work. And so last week it was like it wasn't working at all. So then I spent that week trying to fix it. And by the end of the week, we were able to get it working. So it's now fully operational. I really just kind of fill holes as needed. You'll sometimes see me on the line just serving pastries, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I've jumped back, washed dishes, and scooped ice cream. And, I kind of do the whole gambit of stuff on that. But, and then, on top of that, we also have the commons, which is, the buildings that are around. And so my brother-in-law and I help manage that for my dad. And so, sometimes that's talking with tenants, figuring that out. It's putting together new leases if we need to do that, or finding new tenants. And so it's a lot of that, and it's also a lot of just kind of upkeep on like little things here and there.
So fun. And there has been a huge amount of transition, as it would happen in any place. So I'm sure that's a constant just turnover in who fits and how they market themselves. And so do you meet regularly with the tenants, or how do you service? What does that involve? I mean, obviously, if their plumbing and septic has a problem, you fix that. But.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and really it's we try and stay really high level when it comes to helping out the tenants. We try not to jump in and have to change light bulbs, things like that, because, those are pretty straightforward and
they need to be grown-ups.
Yeah, we've got, just make sure that they've got everything. But yeah, if there's any structural things, if there's any septic things, septic, electrical, things like that, we usually jump in, and we've got our contractors that we work with, and we just jump in and help them out with those, and we try and make sure that everything's running smoothly. We've had some weird issues that were like, why would that happen? And so I've learned a lot about building code and buildings and septic and electrical and all that stuff and how that stuff works, just from helping out tenants, because a new problem pops up and I'm like, I don't know why this happened this way. So we just have to get to the root of it, and then we figure it out and move forward.
So if that's kind of one of the things that you do, and then like you were just saying, sort of all the things that could fall into your day, but if we were to ask any one of your 4 children that are all under the age of 10, which I can only say for a couple more days, what do you think they would say you do?
Wow. I don't know what they'd say. Probably the things that stand out is the bakery and the ice cream. So they probably think they're completely obsessed with food. So like for the most part, that's probably all they think I do is sit at work and eat ice cream.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure one of my children has said that before. Like, well, you just sit at work and eat ice cream. I'm like, well, yeah.
I want that job, Dad.
Exactly.
I do a little more than that.
Follow in your footsteps.
That's fine. But yeah, I think they, that's part of it. They just kind of see the aspects that they interact with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what it looks like for somebody who has a degree in engineering, but what type of engineering was that?
Yeah, my degree was in mechanical engineering.
So how does that thought process translate into owning a business that has so many different components? Does that come into play at all, or is it just a whole new skill set?
No, it definitely comes into play. I mean, I would say engineering, one of the reasons my dad and I, like when we were kind of when I was figuring out what I want to do for a career, my dad said, well, you're good in math and sciences. We should interview a mechanical engineer and see if that's a good fit for you. Because the important thing that engineering teaches you is critically thinking and problem solving. And whether you're doing electrical engineering, mechanical, civil, like everything you're doing as an engineer is really just problem solving. You're trying to figure out, how do I make this do what I want it to do? And then they give you the tools to connect those dots. So as an overarching theory, engineering helps in almost any field that you work in, which is partially why my dad thought it would be a good fit, because even if mechanical engineering didn't pan out as the thing I ended up with, I could then take those skills and apply them in business or whatever else I want to do. So so I think overall, like, they really help when it comes to problem solving, stuff like that. It's like breaking down a problem.
So you get that aerial view, and then my husband has a good brain for that, and I always start from the smallest thing and work outwards, and it's not always effective, and it's not very good in a managerial position, but that's why you're the owner.
And then you can fix penny squisher machines too.
There
I
you
mean,
go.
Right.
the skill set just keeps going and going. So this past year, because you've owned the marketplace for what, a year and a half now? So most of your time being an owner was during COVID.
Yep.
So can you talk a little bit about what that looked like for the business and for you, and also how has it been going and maintaining, and what have you done that's been effective or not done that's been effective?
Yeah, I think, it was definitely, we took over the marketplace officially on November 1st of 2019. We had a great Christmas season, hit January, slowed down just like normal. February GlassQuest was that. At the time, that GlassQuest was by far the biggest. Like every year, GlassQuest grows a little bit, but like that year of 2020, that GlassQuest was way bigger than we've ever had it. Like every business in the area was like, that was a crazy GlassQuest. So we got through that and we're like, wow, this is going to be a great year. Like we're all set up. Like January was pretty good, but then February was great. And now we're moving into March. And then, March of 2020 was going to be the launch date of our juice bar. So March 1st of 2020, we launched our juice bar, started kicking out marketing for it. And a couple weeks into that, we started hearing, I guess prior to that, you started hearing these rumblings of different things going on. But I don't know, when it comes to world news, like you hear about so many different things, and there's so many conspiracy theories out there, and so many different things that are going on in the world that a lot of times I kind of just drown it out. And I'm like,
well, but they're all true because they're on TV, right?
Right.
I mean, yes.
or Facebook.
Yeah.
So that was something that I wasn't really aware. We had heard a little bit about it, but I was like, it's probably not really even going to hit us over here. That's over in China. And it kept spreading, and then more countries were being affected. And of course, most people know Washington was one of the first states to really get hit because we're, kind of the first airport that most people that are traveling from Asia, they come fly into Seattle. So we were kind of ground zero for the beginning of that. And so, it did start hitting, and then, I live in Mount Vernon, so that, there was a church there that was another big, news. It made national news of, an outbreak that happened in a church, down the road from us. So, it started hitting a lot faster than I guess I expected it to. Actually, both that and then Stanwood also had a big outbreak that made national news. So, there was all these different things that were hitting, and I was like, oh, I guess this is going to really happen. And then the first couple weeks of it, when they were like, okay, this is a thing, try and be safe and wash hands and everything, we were still staying, we dropped a little bit, but it wasn't substantial. And I was like, great, this is going to ride out for about a month, and then we'll probably pick right up where we left off. And then they did the full shutdown, where everyone was supposed to stay indoors, stay home, don't leave the house, all of that. And obviously that was when it really hit, oh, this is something bigger than I thought it was, and it's not just going to go away.
Was there a fear element for your staff in this process?
It was an interesting. It was really interesting, I think, dealing with working with the team on that, because the fear element was much more on the effects of what COVID was, because nobody knew, and basically many of our people were just we employ a lot of high schoolers, and then we employ a lot of people that are older, and so our demographic, our older staff members, we're like, we don't know what's going on. If you guys want to stay home, this obviously is not holding anything against you. If you don't feel safe, I don't want you to come into work for that.
And they were at higher risk.
And they were at higher risk. So many of our team did that. And then on the younger side, you've got parents. So the parents are worried. So then they're like, well, we don't really want you working right now.
Oh, interesting.
And so we're like, yeah, totally understand. We'll figure it out. So for a good few weeks there, business crawled to a screeching halt. There was nobody coming in the store. So we were basically operating with myself and our head baker Barry, and then one of our espresso bar, one of our baristas, and it was just us three that were in the building, and it was completely empty. We had blocked off all the other aisles, so if people came in, they could come in just for the essential stuff, and then they had to leave right away. We were able to kick on online ordering, but that was pretty low because a lot of people were still not used to it at that point.
Right.
Our system wasn't super well equipped for all of it, so we were making it work, but it wasn't great the way it was all working out. So
yeah, because it's not like you have a drive-through window that's already in place. I mean, I think some people survived because they had a drive-through already in place, but there's no place for that here. So you were having to schlep it out by hand to the curb, like the old a roller derby. You need roller skates.
Yeah, so we had that, and so that's what we were doing. We were running orders in and out of the door. We were waiting for phone calls. We would answer the phone, then run out the door, so that's how we were kind of operating during that beginning time of COVID. And like I said, it was like we just crawled to a screeching halt. And I mean, there was definitely I had a lot of conversations with different people during that time of just like, okay, so what happens if this lasts so long that we run out of funds? Like, what does that look like?
Right.
And actually kind of doing a lot of deep diving and thinking of what does bankruptcy look like and things like that.
The engineering mind is going to be working overtime. Right? Yes.
Yeah. Well, and this is, I think the thing about fear is it's always fear of the unknown. And so if you kind of break through and okay, what does this actually look like if this happens? And you actually start going down that road and you kind of go through that whole path of this is the worst case scenario. This is what it looks like. It does actually bring a lot more comfort to okay, they can't kick you out on the street. They can't take away all of your cars. You go down to zero, but you're at zero. You're not negative all that.
There
you're
you go.
Zero. So it's something where you get back to ground zero and you're okay, I can build myself back up. If this is the worst case scenario and I get put in this situation, I can find a way out of it. And so that was something that was kind of coming to that realization. And then how do we do that, and how do we do the best job we can so that doesn't happen, but also knowing if it does happen, we'll make it through. We'll survive as a family, we'll survive as a community and everything like that.
So does Brittany, your wife, process that same way, or was she coming from a different perspective? I mean, what did that look like at home? I mean, that's got to be, here you are, little kids in your house, let's buy a whole new business and welcome the pandemic. I mean, what a great way to start a whole new career, right? I mean,
yeah. No, I mean, I think at home it was, first of all, I wasn't home a lot because it was just me. Like I said, it was three of us that were working the whole floor and everything that was going on. So during the day, I was sitting there on the floor making, if any customers came in, serving them and working and doing that. So then I spent a lot of late nights at the shop where I was filling out. There was all these grants and assistance that were coming out, but all of those things always take a long time. There's so much paperwork and all this different stuff. So a lot of my nights and evenings were working at the shop just once it was closed. So once it was closed, I'd be jumping in and trying to fill out the paperwork for these different things to try and make us help us stay afloat.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what it was. And so, a lot of late nights, she would come down with the kids sometimes. We would just eat dinner inside the marketplace.
Yeah.
There was just a lot, she just kind of clicked into overdrive and just, it's okay, we don't have Brandon to help out around the house right now. So that's us. The kids, there was some stepping up by the kids that Brittany put more on them. Hey, you guys are now doing this. You're old enough to start doing this. So, just kind of all around the family kind of had to work together and moving forward and making sure that things around the house were still getting done. And, so there was definitely just kind of a team effort in the family as well.
That's so good. And Brittany has a good business sense about her as well. So I'm sure she was totally in your court.
So jumping from there to now, so at that point, only people could come and get the essentials and leave, and we only had 3 team members, and then jump to this weekend, which was, filled with people all the time. So what did that year kind of look like, and how's the business doing?
Yeah, so what was what was neat in seeing with everything that happened around COVID, I've talked to a lot of different people, a lot of nonprofits, people from the like Josephine's. I've talked with people from the food bank. And one of the things that has really stood out in this community is that the community really came together during COVID. There were so many people that were younger that were willing to volunteer and help out. And, there was a lot of donations that came in and things like that. So a lot of the like essentials, like the food bank and stuff, have had overwhelming support for during this time. And I feel like that's been reflected on the businesses as well. So once we started reopening, they finally released the phases, like this is what we're going to do to get out of this. And so they released the phases 1 through 4. And Island County was fortunate enough to we breezed through phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And we got into phase 3 by the time they put a freeze on all phase changes, which was very unfortunate that, at the time, Stanwood was kind of stuck with Snohomish, and wherever they went, Stanwood went. And Snohomish wasn't doing very well, but Stanwood was doing great at that time. But they weren't willing to separate those. They were just overwhelmed already from a governmental perspective. So they weren't going to make exceptions to the rules. So they kept Stanwood in phase 2, which really hindered what they could do. And so we were able to, Camano was in phase 3, so we were able to have inside seating again. We were able to do order in, and people were able to hang out in our store and stuff. So we saw a lot of people that came up and would come and hang out and eat here in this area because they were allowed to actually eat inside, and that's what people were really craving at that time.
Yeah.
And so we saw a big uptick in business once we were able to hit into phase 3. And the remainder of that year, I think people weren't allowed to travel, or at least it was highly discouraged. And people, so instead of spending $500, $1,000 on a vacation, they were doing these day trips to different areas.
We ate.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
And you had ice cream and cookies.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people just kind of took their money that they would have put towards a vacation and said, well, let's just go have a fun day on Camano. Or let's go do a fun trip in, some of these more rural towns that they wouldn't necessarily have gone to visit. And so Camano got hit pretty hard with all of that in a good way. Like we had a lot of business from local Washingtonians who had never been on the island and never known that we existed. And so that went over really well, and we were staying really busy during that. And then, we had it wasn't like a full shutdown again. It was just like let's stop doing eating inside again as we hit winter, and they did the whole open air thing. But even during that time, like we stayed pretty busy, and then we had a great Christmas season again. And then jumping into this year, 2021, with restrictions still what they were and everything happening, like we didn't know where we would kind of end up. But again, it seems like community has really rallied, and so we've been really, really busy. And like what Emily was saying, like this last weekend, we were really, really busy. It was a crazy weekend. It was like a summer weekend, but it was in April.
Yeah.
And I actually heard that part of that was due to the fact that we were actually not the main tulip guide, but we were in one of the references of the tulip guide.
That's great.
That hey, check out Camano. I think it was part of the Whidbey Camano tourism group that put it out. I think for the first time ever, we don't normally really see a big uptick in April, other than it's getting nicer and people are out,
right?
But not a big uptick. I think we actually are seeing some of the tulip traffic come through here.
Love it.
Yeah. So anyways, I think in that sense, we're looking really good. We're hitting new numbers and stuff like that. We're really busy. We're just trying to now manage that now. How do we make things more efficient? How do we make production more efficient? How do we customer management all of this? How do we get new team members on and train fast enough? So they're all good problems to have, but it's we ran out of ice cream last weekend, and so I was running to ice cream.
It was so warm too.
Yeah, it was
for
beautiful.
Several days in a row. That was
exactly.
Yeah. So I was just ordering we had been doing through March and February, just a little bit here and there, and then we got hit. So, like I said, all good problems to have. It's we're just hitting we're just really busy. So now it's summer came early, so now we got to act like it's summer. So yeah.
So I watched the both of you, Brandon and Emily. I'm painting away at the loft, and quite often I turn around and you're interviewing a new employee. So what I love about the Commons is the atmosphere of the people who work here. They're always courteous. It's just a really upbeat, fun vibe. When you're hiring, do you look for that keeps that going? What are the main things that you look for?
Yeah, so I mean, I've done a lot of reading and trying to, listening to different books and stuff about hiring and all of that, and what's the important things. And so when we're bringing on new team members, one of the things that my dad started, and it's just kind of we continued that as we've moved forward, is that my dad's businesses were all pretty small in the beginning, and he kind of continued that mentality of like this very small family-run business. And so even when we would bring in new people, it was still like they were family within the business, and they kind of treat each other. They would hang out outside. They would celebrate birthdays outside of the business. So within the marketplace, that was kind of the spirit of walking into it of, again, we had a much smaller team back then, probably like 10 to 12 people. And they all knew each other really well. They would all hang out after work. And so they really had this like family feeling to them when they were doing things. And so like if someone called in sick, like someone was volunteering to jump in and work that shift for them because that was, they knew them. They knew that they were sick, and it was much more personal. And so we've tried to keep that spirit. Now we have over 25 team members here. And which we try and keep that spirit, though. So when we're bringing someone on, we're really bringing on someone like, do we think they would fit well within the context of our team? And do we feel like they will go the extra mile for their other team members?
Cool.
So there's a lot of different aspects that we look at when we're doing that. But the other thing that we've tried to tie together within all of that is really bringing together our mission statement. So the mission statement at the marketplace is to bring joy to the Camano Island community through food, service, and drink. Because that's what the Camano Island Coffee Roasters has had a really big mission in helping the farmers that grow the coffee. And they donate money, a percentage of their sales or to these farmers to make sure that they're getting a living wage and that they're able to do what they, grow the coffee and be sustainable. And so that is such a big mission that they've taken on and worked on. And the marketplace was one that was a secondary company to that. So, when they were one company, they did contribute to that because they were all under one house. But upon the purchasing and splitting off of the companies, that as much as we support that with what we're in buying the coffee and things like that, that wasn't our direct mission because that wasn't our direct feedback to the to our company. We were not donating dollars that we made to them. We were purchasing the coffee. And so I really wanted to see what is the mission of the marketplace. And we've got so many different aspects too. It wasn't one faceted of like it's just coffee or it's just bakery or it's just gifts. It was so many different facets. Like what is really the overarching umbrella of what the marketplace is here for? And so in that kind of deep dive, came to that realization of like that is what our mission is to bring joy to the Camano Island community through what we do. And because the people that come to the marketplace, we are very fortunate that we work in a business that people come to the marketplace because they want to come to the marketplace. We don't work at the DOL. We don't work at the different stores where like the only reason they're there is because they have to be there.
Right.
They're coming in to get something they're enjoying. They want to get a cup of coffee and a nice pastry. They want to buy gifts for somebody or for their own house. They're coming in for a positive reason. And it's kind of their escape. Like we don't know what their background is. They might be going off to a job that they really don't like. But they get to stop by and get a pastry and coffee before work. And every day that is what they look forward to because then they have to go off to a job they don't like.
Some Camano comfort.
Yeah. And so we want to provide that spark of joy in their life, whether that's just that one little interaction that we get to have with them. And so that's what we try and that's the overarching theme of what we try and do here at the marketplace.
I love that.
So.
I was talking to three ladies who, two of them were helping the third who had just moved here, and they were saying, "Oh, we are coming back," and had nothing. It was just you can feel it here, that it's just a welcoming place, and it's a place you can call home, and you're home away from your Wi-Fi that works.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great that it can be that place for the community, and that you're building into that. And you said it was kind of like something that you looked into seriously as you were building the company and bringing that on. So what is something else, COVID aside, that surprised you the most about owning a business? Like, maybe because obviously you've seen kind of the business grow up, and you've worked next door at the roasters before in high school and all of that. So you've been very familiar with the whole business, but what part of being an owner or what you do now or looking at it for the future is the biggest surprise for you?
As far as biggest surprise, I feel like we were pretty well prepared from an outside perspective in getting into the business. Actually, I think the best comparison I can think of right now is kind of like marriage or having kids. Like, before you get married or you have kids, you read all the books, you talk to a lot of people, and you're like, oh, it's not that hard. All you do is this, this, and this. And when the baby's not sleeping, you do this, and then they sleep. So, like, it's so easy. You just follow the steps, and there you go. And so that's kind of what I would say, we did, but we did get to have somewhat of a trial run because I was the general manager of the marketplace. I really knew everything that we were doing and how it was running and how our team functioned and everything like that. So the benefit there is I didn't have to step into a company I didn't know anything about that I was jumping into and trying to now operate. So it all, from a big surprises, there wasn't necessarily a big surprise. It's just really coming to that understanding of within the company, it's like anything that happens, the buck stops with you, and everything is your fault. I've always been a proponent of people taking responsibility for their own mistakes, and so that's what I've tried to do within myself and within when I'm with my kids or whatever. If I overreact, I try and apologize to them, to all levels, and I feel like that is, but within the company, even if it's someone's, the lowest level, someone overreacts to a customer or something like that. That still reflects on me, and that reflects on my training and my managers and my but it all flows back up to me. It's my fault that interaction did not go the way I wanted it to, or should have gone. And so in that, it's understanding all of that and making sure that I have the ability to, direct the ship whatever way I want to, but I have to take ownership in that and do that and step forward and take action on that too.
So I'm sure there's never, ever any team member conflict ever, but if there were, hypothetically, how do you go about resolving that kind of thing? I mean, you put that many teenagers together in one room, and there's got to be emotions flying,
Yeah. No, and we've had our fair share of different drama things that happen throughout the marketplace. But I would say we do have, we have a pretty good foundation for what we're looking for in our team and what we expect from our team members. We have a no gossip policy, which means any complaint or thing, if you can't resolve it with the person you're having an issue with, that complaint has to float upwards. If it doesn't, that's gossip. And so,
wow, that's good. That's a good life. Write that down, put it on the billboard.
And so what, if we have that issue, or if that's been an issue, or if someone does bring something to our attention as managers, we do take the time to go through all of that and sit down and figure out what's going on, why do we think this started, and then move from there. And then we sit down with the appropriate parties. And if a lot of times that's sitting down with both parties and saying, okay, this is what's kind of going on. What, how can we resolve this? We try and gather as much information as we can. So we're prepared for that conversation.
Right.
But yeah, it's really just a matter of making sure that each conversation is that people, and we've had a handful of times where people have come from different levels, even all the way from the bottom again. So people that are just at the counter, and they come up to me and they say, hey, this is what we're seeing. This is an issue we're having. And so I always try and reaffirm, this is great. I'm glad you guys came to me, because I don't want anyone to feel I can't this isn't that big of a deal, or I can't bring this attention to the next level. And so every time that's happened, we work through it, we resolve it. And then, this is where we realize, like, when it comes to gossip or things like that, like, it gets so dirty so quickly, and it can cause so many different side problems very quickly down the road. So people that aren't even related to a problem can suddenly get wind of it, and all of a sudden they're unhappy. And so, like, it goes so fast that if you don't deal with it quickly and open, like, with the party members,
Right.
then it can cause, like, a lot of additional drama when you guys are just trying to get the job done and work as a team. It's really hard to work as a team if you feel like someone's stabbing you in the back.
Yeah, I what I see in the, as I'm up there just painting away and observing is that you do have, I had a boss who had kind of a no complaint policy. If you have a complaint, you have to be part of the solution. Otherwise, keep it to yourself. Come with solutions, come ready to be part of the solution. And I see that a lot at the Commons, and I think that speaks really well to your leadership style and what you foster. And so I'm just going to make you, embarrass you in front of the whole island community here. So that it's been fun to watch you as a leader, to respect people. You're a good listener. And so in that, as people come in who are new, how do you encourage people to, you have the regulars, the people we know first names, but there's also the atmosphere of, hey, you're new, where are you from? How do you foster that? Do you teach that? Or is that just the type of people you hire? Or
a lot of that comes from I would say that comes from the managers and stuff like that. So like Jen, I know she does a lot of, like, when she's talking with the team members, I see her training the new ones on whether it's barista or ice cream, whatever. But when she notices they're not doing certain things, like, not in a confrontational way, she just says, hey, just next time you see, and you get a weird phone number for our reward system, like, ask them, hey, that's a area code I don't recognize. Where are you from? Awesome. Or just talking with the people, and a lot of those skills you kind of learn over time if you are that type to kind of pick those up. But she tries to encourage them in that, and so I think that happens a lot by the managers and people that are doing the training and stuff.
That's so cool.
So yeah.
And so I think it also has to do with, like you're saying, just paying attention and bringing that moment of joy to people. And I think that when people feel that they're being paid attention to and invested in, that they can get that. So yeah, in espresso it's that, or in gift shop, you see them putting together a gift, oh, is this for, who is this for, or this and that, or, oh, I got that for my niece too, or, somebody who's buying, like the magnets and the Camano things. It's like, oh, well, are you visiting? Is this your first time here? And people, feel cared about. And I think that that's a huge thing, that again comes from how you communicate and then who you hire as well. So
yeah,
that speaks to you also. One question that I had for you personally,
she knows you well, so she can dig deep.
Is what is something about the marketplace that you wish people knew? So maybe something, I can't even think of what it would be, but is there something that you love about the marketplace, or some kind of hidden thing that you think people should know?
That's a hard question. That's a good question. Is there a specific thing? Really, I'd love to have more people experience the marketplace. One of the things that I've always done, if I go to I used to go. I don't have time anymore. No. But I go to like Seaside, Oregon, and Cannon Beach, and you go to those areas, and you get to go in these really fun, eclectic shops that have, cool toys or weird candies or all sorts of weird things. And that was always like one of my favorite things as a kid. I don't know if anyone has gone to Long Beach, Washington, but they have the Ye Olde Museum down there, or Ye Olde Curiosity Shop. Yeah. And they have all sorts of fun things throughout that shop. And that used to be one of my favorite shops to go in as a kid. If you ask my wife, like when we go on a vacation, like I'm always looking for those types of stores that have pastries, espresso, neat little gifts and things like that. Because those are always the things that like interest me. So, within the marketplace, I try and Christy has been our buyer for many, many years, and she does a fantastic job in that. And so that, she's been able to continue that with what she buys and brings in. I think that is kind of the spirit that we're going for. So like the penny machine is part of that, like having something that you can remember, a little token that you can take home and remember your time at Camano. We've got some fun shirts that we've got designs that we're coming out with. And so we're always just trying to add little things to add to your experience here at the marketplace, here on Camano Island, because, we think it's a great special spot, and there's still a lot of people that don't know about it. And so trying to get that out. So I don't know if that I have an exact answer, but I think that's important. I also think the importance of our mission statement is important. It's something that we try and share with everyone in our interviews and things like that. But it's not something necessarily that people know within the community. It's not something that we like plaster on the wall because we feel like the mission statement is our mission to achieve. And but still, it's nice to get that out there as well.
Yeah.
So.
If money were no object, this is one of my favorite questions to listen to people answer. If money were no object and you had all the resources in the world, COVID didn't exist, what do you dream of doing? What are some dreams that you have for the Commons and what it can be here?
I would say just in general, like really one of the things that we're able to do because of where we're at in the company and stuff is like we're everything has been growing and doing well. I'm still trying to learn finances, stuff like that, to better manage and budget and things like that. So that's still working on. But as we do that, really it's kind of seeing what can we do to kind of pour back into the team as well. So what little things can we add? Like we just recently added, a week of vacation to our team members. And it's not a lot. You can still go to most other companies and get a lot more than what we can offer because we're still a small company and small business. But we just try and see what things can we augment to try and make it a little bit better for our team members that we have here at the marketplace. And so that's one of the things that my wife is really big on, and I've been big on is just, we've been blessed a lot. How do we kind of give back to the team members that are helping us move this forward?
So cool. I love that because I honestly expected you to say, hey, we're going to do something in the ice cream area or whatever, and it went back to people. And honestly, I think that's one of the things that's so beautiful about the Commons is that attitude that you have, that your dreams are for people, not for things or stuff. That's a better answer than I thought I would get out of that. So well done.
All right. Well, I think it is time for some rapid fire questions for Brandon. Okay. So you have 24 hours and can do absolutely anything. Like money, again, is no object. Love this world that we're living in, by the way.
Let's just crank this out.
Right? So you have 24 hours. You can do anything, go anywhere. What do you choose to do?
I've always wanted to go visit like Japan. I'm South Korean, so I'd love to go back and visit South Korea sometime. So really those two places would be great. I haven't really I've done none really exploring in Asia as far as travels go and stuff like that. I do think that I'm like there's certain things about like Europe, like Spain, because I'm really into soccer. My favorite team's Real Madrid, so like I want to go see a game there. I want to go visit Spain, but like that, I have a lot stronger, I would say, connection to like Asia and the cultures there, and like I'd really like to learn more about them and kind of dive deeper into that because I think we are we're Western European in our culture. We've evolved obviously into a new culture, but a lot of our culture tendencies and stuff like that come from Europe.
Right.
When you look at some of the Asian, like South Korean, or especially Japan is a great example of this. The cultural norms and different things that they've developed and stuff, they were an island off, China and like not really interact with much until really like not so long ago. So, like, culturally, they developed all these different things that were based on their culture of just them, not being invaded, not being, affected by outside. So, when I've heard people talk about Japan and their culture and different things like that, like, they're just, like, as a European, like from our cultural background, would never have thought to interact that way on whatever that thing is. So I'd love to visit them. I was a big Pokemon avid fan as a kid. So
did that come out of Japan?
Yeah.
I'm not a Pokemon.
Yeah, a lot of my favorite, like...
We had Thumbelina.
A little different.
little different world here.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of the, like, kid shows, childhood stuff were, Japanese-based and stuff. So, I think it'd be great to go visit there, and also South Korea, just because that's my background. So.
Okay, second rapid-fire question. If you could have a do-over of anything, any time in your life, it can be little, big, what would you give yourself a do-over for? Dangling participle.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think this probably goes back to the whole sci-fi thing, but I feel like there's a lot of... this question gets asked, there's different ways to ask the question, but I think if you look at, because of like the butterfly effect and things like that, like it's almost like if I went back and changed or did over something, like what if that's the one thing that changes things so the life isn't what it is now? And so it's really hard to like go back and say this is the one thing I would have changed. I mean, I think we went over a little bit in my interview with my wife, but like the times we met in life prior to actually starting dating and then getting married were so weird, and the interactions were weird. Like everything was weird about how that all went down.
You weren't this Casanova smooth guy.
Of course, that's what she was trying.
Of course, right? Yes.
But that, like, even that, like, I'm look back at that, I'm like, man, how would I don't know how I would, like, there's no way I would have wanted that to go differently because it ended the way it did.
That's awesome.
So it's really hard to really say, like, there's a do-over moment.
Love that.
So
that, and there's such a element of thankfulness enveloped in that answer that is so important. You have kids and it's like, yeah, that was hard, and their life was at risk. I think one of your children, super high risk, but you just cherish them more, and it becomes a richer experience. It's like, yeah, you're a miracle, and that can be part of their history. That, yeah, I wish you hadn't had to go through that, but you did, and look, you're you. So,
yeah.
What's rapid fire question number 3?
The next one is carabiners. What are your thoughts?
Oh my God.
Carabiners were a big part of my life when I was in pre-middle school through high school. They're great. They do, they can do whatever you need them to do. They can hold your keys. They can help you climb. They can,
they're a fashion piece, I've heard. Yeah.
They do a little bit of everything. So
is there a selective process to finding a good carabiner? Are there levels of carabiners?
There were different types. Yeah. There's different qualities of carabiners. Carabiners are great. They've been a big part of my life.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So you recently went to Alaska and had no running water, was there electricity?
No, there was a generator that we forgot to fill up with gas, so we only got like a couple hours of electricity, and so, yeah.
Is there anything from that experience of just being able to unplug that you would love to implement in your life right now?
I don't know. It's one of those things. So I'm like, I've always been a very like technology-based person. Like I love technology. I love what it can do. I get super excited when the next level of technology evolves and comes out. And like that's what I like look at researching and everything like that, which is why when my wife says like we should live off the grid, I'm like never.
No. Not fun.
Yeah. So I mean, I like doing like little stints. I don't mind doing stints of that, where like doing camping trips or things like that. We like doing that as a family too because it reconnects us, refocuses us a little bit. So I enjoy doing those types of things, and I think that's important to disconnect at different times. But I'm not on the bandwagon of like all social media, all technology is evil and it should be banished from this world because I really enjoy it. And, so I would say like I do think slowing down is important. I think, having those times in nature is really important as well, where you get to just connect with people and nature and things like that. But, I'm not like any sort of like big advocate of anti-technology type stuff.
Good for you.
So you mentioned briefly soccer and Real Madrid specifically. What's your favorite thing about soccer, or favorite moment of soccer, or when you're playing, what do you like about it?
Yeah. I think, this is what I enjoy about a lot of different aspects of like, whether it's video games or card games or soccer or things like that, is I feel like I have a fairly adaptive personality, which will probably go away as I get older. But, as now I...
We'll wait for that.
And so I do enjoy like pitting myself against other people in a competitive way. I'm despite being a little bit more of a laid back or like quiet personality at times, when I get into a game, like I really want to be competitive. And I never expect myself to be at a professional level of anything, but just in the high, like below that, like high competitiveness. So like with soccer, like every action or interaction that you have on the field is really even though it's a team effort, it's a team sport. It is especially if you like work as a defender or something like that, like you end up, it's you versus the person that's coming at you with the ball. And, I've always enjoyed that, like playing a game where like the first 10 interactions with an attacker that's going to try and get past you, like they get past you with ease. And then on the 11th time, you figure it out and you stop them. And then like, as the game progresses, like if they can't evolve, you stop them and you stop them. And like, they eventually get frustrated because they can't figure out why they can't do what they just did a bunch of times to you already.
There's that engineering problem solving mind right there.
I can figure this out.
It goes into soccer too. That would never cross my mind. It's like, how can I keep from getting killed?
So yeah, I really enjoy that. And I do enjoy the team sport aspect of it. I'm competitive, but not to the exclusion of excluding others. Mm-hmm. And so like, when we have a free play, open play type thing that Tobin, who is also on the podcast, puts together. And when we play there, like it's not about the competition, it's about just having fun, including everyone and enjoying the game. And so when we do that, like, you just pass, especially growing up, I saw a lot of it where you'd play in these games, and even now, like if you play in like leagues and stuff like that, like if someone's not performing well, you just stop passing to them and they just ignore that person. And so they're just standing on the field. And when we play these, these open games, we just pass to everyone. And if someone misses the ball 20 times, you pass them for another time. Like you just keep going because it's a lot of fun. And so, I think there's a balance there as well.
Yeah. So turning the tables is going to be really fun right now. So tourists coming on the island for the first time, and there's a big billboard. Mm-hmm. What would you put on that billboard?
I don't know. Like
it's a hard one. It's
marketing
a hard question,
side or the
parking side.
There's always the like stop by the marketplace.
Okay, there's already a marketplace billboard when you come on the island, hypothetically. Right. So if there's already one for the marketplace, what's the other one that you?
The sage advice.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of ones that have come out throughout the podcast that have been really good. I think. Kind of like unplug, relax, enjoy. Mm-hmm. I think it's just, the island allows you to kind of have that. Like you can go walk on Barnum Point, and there's the state parks, and there's Iverson Beach, and there's just great spots where you can just go and just enjoy. And I think Barnum Point's great because you can, as you walk through the trails, like you forget that you're not that far away from the highway right there, but like it feels like you can stop and it's just quiet. I always enjoyed that growing up on Camano. As a kid, I was able to do that like in our property. I could go into the forest a little bit and then just like stop and listen. And like you couldn't hear anything, no cars, no anything. And so, I think that's an important aspect that, if you grow up in a city or stuff like that, like I lived in a college town, I lived in a city, like you don't actually get to just stop and not hear anything. Like you very rarely get that. So, yeah.
Great. Well, thanks, Brandon. It's been a pleasure to interview you.
It's been great grilling you, and this is great. Better than I thought it would go. It's just fun to learn about who you are and what your thought process is, and thanks for the honor.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. All right. And Islanders, I'll talk to you on the next one. Well, a big thank you to myself for joining me and myself on the podcast. And thank you to Lydia and Emily for interviewing me on this one. For more information on this episode, you can go to CamanoCommons.com/EP91. That's CamanoCommons.com/EP91. Thanks for listening and see you next time.